So, how's everybody doing today? I am what you need. Usually I talk boxing, but today I'm going to talk politics once again in this video. And specifically, we're going to talk about the certification of the election, the certification of Joe Biden as the winner of the election, and the GSA's announcement that Joe Biden has won the election. As I explained to you guys, and as I explained to the T with regards to the process, the GSA did her job as she was supposed to. The Michigan Board of Electors did their job. The Michigan Board of Canvassers, sorry, did their job as they were supposed to. I watched the entire process actually on M Live, which is Michigan station. I know M Live from boxing, covering all things Michigan, and they had the live um, convening of the board of canvassers, and all of the different counties had their contributions to, they had their pieces to say on the electoral process, informed the electors, not the electors, but the canvassers, the people who were supposed to to vote on the state board of the situation on the ground. Now, it was interesting though that there were some discrepancies that happened on the ground in Michigan, and definitely after certification, there's going to now be an appeal. There'll be a audit. So I'm looking forward to the audit as well to follow through on what happens in Michigan and what kind of recommendations they would have to prevent a situation like that from happening. Because there were some incidents that happened in there, and they're going to actually look at the numbers. The lady who actually was voting on, I think, was the board that had to do with Wayne County, why she had not agreed to certify the county at the time was because of these inconsistencies in some numbers. She's gotten death threats for it, and a lot of things have happened since. And anytime somebody's getting death threats, that's not cool. Now, if you speak to their face about the process, etc., I can understand. But the death threats and so on was a bit extreme for her, and I do believe it was a legitimate concern on her part. I also believe it was a legitimate concern that was taken up by the, I think, vice chair, not vice chair, but one of the people supposed to vote on the board. So even though they did certify the results, because there's no reason to do inquiries and so on, they're supposed to rubber stamp the thing and certify. I do believe they're going to do a audit and find out exactly what went wrong in the Detroit area of Wayne County, and in the evaluation of the voting and the votes. So they're going to look into that because people need to have confidence of the process, especially with the record-breaking numbers that happened in Michigan. There was a record turnout, record-breaking numbers, and you want people to have the confidence in your system that when they vote, their votes count. And so, there's several different things that need to be considered. Now, of course, one of the factors was race in terms of Detroit, particularly in Wayne County, was overseen by a black gentleman, and but there was a notable thing though that we must mention, which is they didn't have enough Republican pollsters who were there to oversee. They didn't have enough, and also the other thing was how they sort of handled their information to get the information to processing at certain points in when they had sort of deficiency of I believe it was votes or ballots or something. Okay. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear. There was a numbers issue. It wasn't a significant numbers issue, but it's still an issue. And, always perfecting the system, always getting the kinks out of the system are very important. And I think it was a balance of, I think, 600 and something votes that were outstanding. And they want to check that out. And I know 600 something votes is not, a significant number of votes, but every vote should count. Every vote should count, and an audit is absolutely necessary. And it was recommended by several different people, including, the people who actually did the counting of the votes. in Michigan. Um, uh, you know, but one of the things that we come to learn from this experience is that um, they should start doing mail-in voting, and also the counting of mail-in voting much earlier. And I would suggest that instead of having your audits after certification, that probably you could have your pre-certification audits like how Georgia does it. Georgia is as transparent as it gets. Georgia is really doing a great job. They did a great job in terms of their elections, and they have the standard. Now Wisconsin's kind of having a problem because as they're doing their I believe they're doing their recounts right now. The pollsters are slowing them down from doing the recounts. But again, people are going to question each step and what these people need to do, even though they're being harassed by certain Trumpian and Republican pollsters. What they need to do is they need to let the process go through because, again, people need confidence in the process. So patience is an important virtue for a lot of these people. They're going to be tested. Of course, they must correct these people when they're out of line. They need to correct people. They're not supposed to be touching the materials. They're supposed to keep a certain distance away because of COVID. So these sort of things now, there's such hardworking people who have been working for the last couple of weeks on this project. So I know, it's very important to be able to control these people who are, but pollsters are obviously eager to see if they can get any advantage. And this goes for both sides, Democrats and Republicans fighting amongst themselves to get pollsters to not pollsters, but the clerks to they fight tooth and nail for for the person that they support. So you have to look at that. But as I told you before, and you're going to see a lot of Republican people putting pressure on Donald Trump because I heard that he still has not conceded, even though he's making preparations to leave the White House and go to Mar-a-Lago. He has still not conceded the election. So I think now intense amount of pressure is going to be put on him because the GSA has now approved Joe Biden as the president-elect, and the transition of power has begun. And you're going to see a lot of Republican senators and a lot of Republicans start to speak out now that Donald Trump is not no longer officially, through the states themselves, not the media, not through the states themselves, he's officially lost the election. Okay, Michigan was the last state that, or Michigan or Pennsylvania Pennsylvania was supposed to be today, but of course there are a lot of delays for several different reasons in Pennsylvania, and so they're yet to try to certify their results. They're still working feverishly as I speak to certify their results, but I doubt it'll happen. I think we're looking at somewhere around Wednesday, probably they'll pull it off. But this is not going to go. This is not going. The elections are not going to go to the it's not going to be dragged out and there's no result. The results have been done. Joe Biden has been already elected. He's the president-elect by the GSA, as the GSA was supposed to do it. And I really I want to commend the head of the GSA, which was a Trump appointee, in that she did it the right way. Okay, and it doesn't really matter who appoints you. And on the ground, I just want to say, now having seen what happened in Michigan, that I understand why some people were somewhat skeptical. And the people who are whistleblowers, they generally get a lot of flack. Okay, whistleblowers get a lot of flack. But whistleblowers, what they do when they see an inconsistency, they should mention it. And I'm not mad at the lady who saw the inconsistency in there, and she noted it. And there needs to be an audit on that. And after the audit, they must find out exactly what happened to those ballots, what happened to the process. And even though it's a small amount of ballots, we don't. You got to always perfect your system. Always be working to perfect things. So I'm absolutely agree with the lady from Michigan. there were not many clerks or people throughout the state of Michigan who had any descending things to do. They kept on pressing the canvassers to the state canvassers to ensure that the state was certified, and then they could proceed to the audit. So the state canvassers did that, but it was duly noted, and it was a public forum of the observations of seeming irregularities that were noted, and an audit is going to be put into that. With respect to um, they didn't use Dominion machines throughout the state, so they used some other machine. With respect to Michigan's running was pretty clean though. It was pretty clean. It was well executed. They did a very good job. Georgia also has done a very good job, and also they have also taken certain notes because there's a recount going on in Georgia at present as well, but their results are certified. Now, see, when your results are certified, what this does is bring stability to the country. That there's is that the states have, at least as far as we do know, elected elected a president. What the hell? I wasn't coughing before, and now I'm starting to cough again. They have elected a president, so it's very important that due process happens. What this does is brings a certain stability. So even if it's being contested, the elections being contested, you still have somebody who clearly was, at least through the states, has been elected. So now the GOP must proceed to promote Joe Biden as president-elect, because the GSA has come out and said he's president-elect. And if the GSA says it, then it must be done. And so that is that, okay? When it comes to settling the issue, like I said before, a lot of senators and a lot of governors and a lot of people now of the GOP are going to put pressure on Donald Trump to concede. And you're going to see a lot of people speaking out on him saying spurious claims from here on forth, henceforth. However, he can contest the elections, he can do whatever he wants, but once the transition of power goes into play, it is okay. He's free to say whatever he wants. But I believe there's going to be an enormous amount of pressure put upon him now from every single camp for him to concede the election and make that statement as a president of the United States. And I believe he will not give your typical concession speech, but he will find a way. Like I said, there is a way out of this, which is to say there's misunderstanding. And once he puts the misunderstanding into the brackets and allows his spokesperson to say it on his behalf, I truly believe, as his presidential will get, that will be enough for him to exit, so that he has his exit strategy. Democracy wins. I told you guys, democracy will always win. And Donald Trump can go as far as he wants to go, but in this case, there are too many systems put in place where if he tries to do certain things that he wants to do, because if if the United States wasn't the United States, and that's why I said the electoral system and the enormous systems that are in place are really safeguards, because there are different laws in place in different states. There are safeguards that protect the democracy, both legally, militarily, and also through policy. So even though it seems like it's all on goodwill and moral fabric, it's also built in a rigid, rigorous legal system, and also in a rigid, rigorous military system. Because remember, America is it's founded and it's backed by the military complex. So you're talking about a country that's armed to the tooth and the nail, and it would be suicide for Donald Trump to give the signal to his followers knowing that he will survive it and they will die. This is another thing I want to tell Trump supporters, especially the militant ones. Consider your friends, your wife, and your family whenever you think you should be called to arms. I'm going to tell you this. If Donald Trump calls you to arms, he's not going to die. They're going to capture him alive and his family. You are expendable. They will kill you. And they'll take you down like if you're an animal. Okay? The U.S. military, and a lot of these people who are doing this, some of them are military people, they know how it works. A military soldier, once given orders, executes. Timothy McVeigh and his cohorts did the Oklahoma City bombings. We have not had a homegrown terrorist bombings in a long time, and I'll tell you why. Because there are agencies within agencies in the United States. Some agencies are so well cloaked to protect the America's interest that they're not even known by the agencies that indirectly hired them. This is to make sure that there's a contingency plan, a nonpartisan contingency plan to protect America's interest. So if you really think that militia hired by Donald Trump is going to overthrow America, I'm going to tell you, or to even do random terrorist acts on American soil, I'm going to tell you right now, you have as much chance to execute and succeed at those things as, and there are many failed attempts that happen on America's soil, as a duck trying to fly into the sky for 7 hours. Okay? America is built on intelligence upon intelligence upon intelligence. There are deep-seated agencies that are almost close to rogue agencies who are committed to defending the democracy of the United States of America. They're so radical, these agencies within agencies, that they're not overseen but by a tenuous relationship. And all they're sworn to, they don't care who becomes president or anything like that. All they're sworn to is democracy. And they have killed people for it. They have destroyed genocidally nations for it. Okay? And they're sworn to democracy. There's nothing as far and depraved that they would not do to defend democracy. Democracy in the United States of America has not come by nice, soothing means. It has come brutally. The evils that have been committed by certain people in America to defend this democracy are so very horrible. You will not be surprised. These are the people who defend democracy. So if you think you're going to pick up military arms in a country that is always known for its military arms, and you're going to just overthrow a government, you got another thing coming. So I try to explain this to people. Listen again, we have the power. We, the people, have the power. But we don't need to flex the power in military might. We need to sway the world of public opinion. We need to let our voices be heard. And then we must support one another on the grassroots level. It's up to the governments and the governing to convince us that they're not going to play Pappy Show with us in Washington, D.C. We see that Michigan is not playing Pappy Show. We see that Georgia is not playing Pappy Show. These are the swing states. We see Wisconsin, they're going through their process and they're not playing Pappy Show. At the state level, we see decent people throughout America. And these state elections are a testimony to the fact that democracy does work. The problem with it is Once we get to Washington, there's a lot of posturing and a lot of politics and a lot of games being played. And they need to stop it. And it's up to the people, the voice of the people in the states, to let that be known. Whether you lost the election or whether you won, the candidate you had for president, that is, you lost the election through him or you won the election through him, you must let your stated case be known. And let us not forget the margin of victory by Joe Biden, while wide, is in terms of orditudes and magnitudes of 10, only less than 10 million votes away from Donald Trump. What I'm trying to say is, it's not this tens of millions of votes difference. There's a significant amount of people, for whatever reason, who supported Donald Trump and wanted a second term for him. So if you do not understand that and you stay in a vacuum of that, you cannot drive these voters who voted for Donald Trump away. And this is not the point for military involvement. This is not the point for force. If the courts decide to pick up issues in legitimate legal claims against certain people who have violated legal issues, that is for the courts. Yes, Donald Trump was trying to attempt a coup d'etat, but he did not have the players on hand who would cooperate with that coup, because those players were accountable to the board of canvassers of the various states inside of the state, or the counties inside of the state. And on top of that, they were also accountable to the people of the state. If it was up to them and their opinions, probably they would have done it. But they knew that there was a tremendous amount of people who wanted confidence in the process, and also they were responsible to commit their job and execute their job. And as professionals, they did so. And this is the beauty of representation. At the state level in Michigan, it was beautiful to see that the voters, and then the people who worked in processing those voter stuff, and then the people higher up and higher up, you could see the chain of accountability and the responsibility of the state canvassers to the electorate. We have a disconnect between the Washington statesmen, whether they're the congressional guys or whether it's the Senate guys, in terms of accountability to their representation. There's a disconnect. And I believe lobbyists have been able to infiltrate that and really hurt the process. Whereas we do not have lobbyists at state level, we do have lobbyists at the congressional and Senate level. And that has been the problem all along. And there needs to be laws to regulate the lobbyist input into the state and congressional levels. I think that will allow for a translation from the given states and their wills to the Congress and then to the Senate. Because congressmen can take pacts where they agree with each other on a particular consensus, which their states do not necessarily represent. Or even if their states represent, it's marginally. And I noticed that when different parties go in to, for example, the Congress or the Senate, they take certain positions based on their parties, and they're not taking principal positions on the reflection of their states. And depending on the percentage win over their opponents in their states, they should take a position. In other words, if you've had a small degree of win over your opponent in your given state, then you really have to reflect not just the winning position of that state, on certain specific issues relevant to the state, but you must also reflect the position of the losers in that state because the margin of victory is small. So I hope that senators and congressmen would reflect the understanding and the feelings of the state to which they represent properly. But what Congress and the Senate should be doing, because all these different people who are represent different states come from different parts of the country are supposed to do, is also hear out the representation from other states, because you, of all people, who became a congressman or became a senator, get the bigger picture whereby the states are within themselves and self-contained, and only governors may communicate with other governors from other states. But with respect to congressmen and with respect to senators, there is communication between representations from different states and how different states conduct themselves. And as such, it is in the best interest of Congress as well as the Senate for these people to communicate with one another, whether they agree with the opinions of the state that they represent or not. They are supposed to go out there and communicate with one another to get a bigger picture to carry back to the states they represent. The information doesn't only flow upward, but it should flow downward, educating the given different states on how different things happen. And also, there should be communication between the states through the governors. And then, of course, the different states would also have their little, you know, conferences with one another to understand the differences in how they go about doing things. So I think that the legislature and the congressional and senatorial factors to bring forth something much more substantive in Washington, D.C., these things need to be applied. Again, I am not someone who is Democratic or Republican. I don't care about that. But I do care that the process is carried out in a civil, sensible, and representing way of the demographics and the public and the voters' will through the Senate and the Congress. And we do not get that kind of flow. Because if the voters' will and the representation of the given places' will is carried to the Senate and to Congress, we would have bills passed. We wouldn't have these crazy senators and crazy congressmen trying to filibuster things and so on, because they know what their specific representation is and their role is. And they would be communicating with other senators and relaying and congressmen and relaying the information back down the chain to the given states, which is their job. And obviously there are bills that they can agree on. So that even if the GOP was to take the Senate, they are not supposed to be just doing filibusters. Mitch McConnell is abusing his job. He's abusing his position. He's not representing the state to which he won. Not only is he not representing the state to which he won, but he's not representing a communication between other states and understanding how other states work. Because these senators and these congressmen are representing the states they're in. What their personal opinions over things are is irrelevant. You are not just there to speak your opinion and what you feel. You are representing an area known as a state to which you came from, or a district, a voting district. So the senators, the governors, and the congressmen are representatives, the governors at the state level, the congressmen and the senators at the congressional and Senate level, you are representing states. And you should be more, should I say, flexible, because you have the ability to encounter with other states and understand how they run and how they work. That's what makes American democracy and the Republican ideals so good. And that's what makes it a perfect union. It's the fact that all these different states and how they do and operate and do different things, and the policies and their concerns in their given states, how these things are dealt with on a whole, on a federal level. So they're supposed to do their job. And when I see people posturing and playing games, I say, what the fuck is going on here? You're not supposed to be posturing and playing games with people. You are representing people. You don't posture and play games with your representation. They will be mad at you. And that goes for Pelosi all the way down. That goes for Mitch McConnell all the way down. You represent people. Take a page out of Michigan. Take a page out of Georgia. Republican led, but it doesn't mean nothing. Because at the end of the day, the rule of law and how you conduct yourself to represent the people is more important than just your political allegiance. And trying to carry out political strategies which have nothing to do with your representation. And don't tell me about the most depraved of you, because they are the loudmouths of you, that they, of course, because they make their claims, they must be considered. But you have to look on the whole. And a lot of people, while they are sheeple to some degree, if you break it down, when you really listen to their real concerns, they're just going along with the tagline. But at the end of the day, these are their real concerns. And Congress and the Senate need to understand and feel the pulse of the real concerns of people, not play political pollywop games. Too much politics out there and theatrics. And you guys are just clowning around, collecting paychecks and dealing with lobbyists. That's why Donald Trump came in to clean out the swamp. You know this. That's why Barack Obama was elected, because he was a guy that was supposed to straighten out things in D.C. It's the same reason the electorate elected Trump and Obama. So you guys got to stop with the boys club bullshit and the girls club bullshit. And y'all need to represent the places for which you were elected. It's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. And right now, the most urgent thing for America is passing a bill to help relieve the population, as well as it's not enough to just be a lawmaker and pass bills. Send down information through your chain of command from senators and congressmen down to your respective states on a coordinated movement, understanding the different states, because congressmen and senators are communicating with one another on a coordinated way, and a suggestion to the states of how they best can deal with the situation, giving them some advice from the federal level to them in terms of suggestions only on your representation based on the consultation they've had and the resources and the information they've had. This is what they should be doing at this point in time. That's the responsible thing to do. Now, the Senate is right now in the lame duck period, but a lot can still be done in the lame duck period. But this is the thing. Mitch McConnell needs to stop playing. I was about to cuss. He needs to stop playing games. All right? Whoever he represents, he needs to stop playing games and represent them. And he needs to do it in the context of the bigger picture of what happens in other states. It's time to be a team player and play ball, not to be some fucking partisan person playing partisan games. We're tired of that. The American people are tired of it. That's why they voted for Donald Trump. They're tired of it. That's why they voted for Barack Obama. Because the only thing the freaking Senate and the freaking Congress seems to be able to come together for is to sign bills for military action and war, or to sign bills to bail out Wall Street. They don't seem to be able to come together for nothing else. And it's time the American people see their electoral process bear fruit. And that means including taking some drastic measures on the right and taking some drastic measures on the left. Stop playing frickin' games. You cannot just be centrist. That's playing it safe, and that's because you guys are collecting money from lobbyists. Stop it. Donald Trump should have taught you a lesson. Barack Obama should have taught you a lesson. That kind of politics does not work. So, at the end of the day, stop being a politician. Be somebody who represents as a servant the people. And if you can get some things done at the federal level that are substantial and real, regardless of whether it's Joe Biden or regardless of whether it's Mitch McConnell or whoever the Republican senators are, whether Joe Biden gets the majority or not, the Republican senators need to still speak their minds, but work along. The idea is to work together. And if the Republican Party works together with the Democrats, they will have a very good shot in 2022 of winning the Senate or the House, because it's not just saying, oh, well, we blocked this, we blocked that. That doesn't work. It's saying we were a part of this bill, and we were a part of that bill, and we contributed this to this bill, and we contributed that to this. When you can have a resume of things you've done because it was bipartisan, now the public has trust and confidence in you, and now they want to look at your candidates. And now we have a real race because things are actually happening in America. Now people say, who am I going to vote for, Republican or Democrat? I think of I think he's either the senator or governor of Ohio. Ohio's doing excellently well. It still has a long ways to go, and I think of Kasich all the time. He's a very good guy. Reasonable. And we need reasonable people out here who are willing to go sometimes extremely right for certain things, which it's right to do. And some people need to go extremely left for certain things so the country can actually progress forward. It always comes back to the grassroots. Your country was founded on the grassroots, on the people who came to the country they didn't have nothing. It started off with the people who were rejected from Europe, outcasts. And yeah, they were white people, and they killed a lot of Native Americans. But in the end, you guys made peace with the Native Americans after you overthrew everything, but nonetheless. And you gave them their land. Then you enslaved people, which was bullshit. And you let them go free, but you haven't given them their land yet. You got to compensate them. But my point anyway is, I can see these measures being taken by Americans, and you have no idea how much goodwill and points you're going to score in the world when you do these things. You're going to score tremendous points. Like I said before, the Republican Party has an opportunity to separate themselves from Donald Trump. He will run his thing for a little bit underground, and then it'll fizzle out and it'll go underground again. But before it goes underground, it needs to lose a lot of its supporters. It'll reemerge. But when it does, America should be ready for it. America should have learned from its history. America should see that democracy can stand in the face of autocratic rule and in the face of narcissism and in the face of distrust and in the face of um, of every single challenge to it. And that's what it's proving without a shadow of a doubt. And the democracy is only going to get stronger for that. It's not going to get weaker. And Donald Trump is still contesting the elections, but it's official. Joe Biden has won. It's over. It's over. And the senators and the governor and the governors, the congressmen are going to come out and say it's over. It is time. It is now legitimized by the states themselves, even though some of those states still have to go and do audits, which is a proper process, and they should do it so they can get their elections right the next time. As so many people said, this is America. America is different to the world. They don't play ball by the beat that the world plays. They have their own football, right? They have their own electoral process and system that's distinct from the world. There's a reason that is so. And we're learning that that reason is a valid one. There needs to be some tweaking, but definitely, I don't care what the Democrats say. The Electoral College should stand and continue to stand. Because there are policies and laws, and there's a responsibility to the people ultimately. See, a lot of people talk about it's a republic, it's a republic, it's a republic. It is a republic. But get this straight. Ultimately, the congressmen and the senators and the vice president and the president are responsible to the people. It's the people that put them there. It wasn't just your supporters, because everybody who participated in the process is a contributor to the process, whether they voted for you or not. It is the people. If the people do not get involved in the process and decide, I'm not voting at all, and all of America just doesn't vote, then you don't have a president. Then you don't have congressmen. Then you don't have senators. So it's by people voting and believing in the process and involved in the democratic process that we get these people. So that these people owe it to them. No matter who they voted for, they owe it to them. That's why a president doesn't represent just the people who elected him or her. It represents all the people, especially the people who voted, and even the people who did not vote. He represents them because whereas somebody did not vote, the person who did vote on their behalf, say their children or whatever, represent their families, their houses, the lands. They represent their area. So you have to represent all people of the country. So I say all of this just to say, once again, that as much as I concerns about certain things that happened in the election, because I do have concerns. I looked at it and there were some irregularities. I truly I see what Donald Trump was trying to go at, but it's really like it's basically fine tweaking the election, the electoral process, especially for people who may still be working on it. So it wasn't bad will as far as I could see. But nonetheless, it's very important to understand that the way how he conducted himself was it wasn't necessarily the most gracious way to go about doing it. But by doing so, he was able to challenge the system. And by challenging the system, he was able to show how rigorous it was and how strong it was. Okay, so um, what's going to happen from here? Well, as we all know, no matter what steps that are still trying to happen, Joe Biden is definitely going to become the next president of the United States. That's a given. That's true democratic process. What kind of president he's going to be is up to him. I do have some concerns, but we will see how things pan out. What is important is to understand that he cannot be successful in the country without bipartisan help. It has to be the country has to, in a bipartisan way, move forward. It's not going to move forward any other way. Us united, according to Zack Snyder. So it is going to be, and no matter whether the Democrats get possession of the House or not, or the Senate, it does not matter. It must be a bipartisan movement forward. And for that to happen, two things must be understood. The people who swore oath to office need to understand they're servants of the office. They are not dictators of the office. They not because they've received this power, they can do whatever they want with it. They are responsible to their electorate and should be going back to their electorate and giving account of themselves to their electorate, with informing them of what happens in other states and areas with other electorates. With respect to working together, to work together, you don't have to agree on everything. And for these congressmen and senators to work together, they will need to compromise on some things. But in order to do that, they must be advised by their given states. Let me say that again, because any deal you're going to make as a congressman or senator, you must inform your state. And even though you are a representation on behalf of the state, you must go back to your state, inform your state, have your state either debate or elect or vote on it, because all of these things that are brought to the floor are things that Congress and the Senate should know in advance, and they should be going to their states and speaking with their states, not the officials, the states. It must go all the way down to the voters, all the way down to the grassroots level. The states must be aware of it and aware also of what other states think, because you represent the state. This communication, top to bottom and bottom to top, should be happening all the time. In that respect, whatever you do is true to the state and the state's division on it, because you represent them. It's not your personal opinion. What you personally feel is irrelevant. It is what the state feels. That is the way to carry it out. And things will actually happen. Things will actually get done. Because as much as you may belong to a party, and there may be certain issues and agendas the party might want to do, the first thing, and I don't even understand why people don't even do these statistical studies. People should be doing statistical studies on statewide throughout the United States of America, what it is that the pulse of the people want. In states, that's what you should be doing, so that you should have done these studies a long time ago so that these things can be passed into law. It's common sense. What throughout the country, people throughout the country are unanimously in agreement on, and how to go about doing it. So once that data is there, this shouldn't be a problem for Congress or the Senate. And unless you're playing politics with it, you should be able to hammer it out, get it right, and then pass it. It's that simple. Governors are able to do these things. So so should the Congress and so should the Senate. Governors do it in sometimes unofficial ways. So I do hope that these people understand that. Otherwise, people are going to have zero confidence in them and they're going to resort to an outlier again. Because people these days, they got a lot of information and they're very skeptical about a lot of things. You can call it narcissistic or whatever, but people, and they have a right to be skeptical. You saw the record breaking numbers that came out for the election. That showed that people voted in spite of their skepticism. So I hope that because the direction in which America is moving, it constantly moves forward. But in order for it to move forward, it has to be challenged so that it can get the kinks sorted out. You know? And with how the handling of this COVID virus happens, you're going to have people resisting certain very important points. Like people talk about mask. But the entire scope of science doesn't necessarily support masks, but people want to mandate masks. And I've been, trying to explain to people that if you are responsible enough and you take the necessary precautions and hygiene and you boost your immune system, as a lot of people have said, masks wouldn't be necessary. But there is a reason why masks are necessary in certain places because people disregard. Up to recently over this weekend here, some young people who were not supposed to assemble in a particular area were partying without masks, of course, and they're just having a good old time. That sort of reckless behavior is why COVID-19 might spread to their families, especially older members with pre-existing conditions who do not take the necessary precautions to boost their immune system because people, generally speaking, do not want to change their lifestyles. They want miracle drugs. They want a shot of this or a vaccine of that. They want to do it the easy way. Yet doing it the hard way, where you change your lifestyle to a healthier lifestyle, where you take simple things that help you to recover, they're not willing to do that. I know. I personally experienced it in my family. So that's why masks, but it's not the most ideal thing. It's not the most ideal situation. I personally don't like it because to me it's dehumanizing. I'm not a bandit, I'm not a robber, and I shouldn't be assumed to have the virus because I don't have it. These are the kinds of problems I have with it, mentally speaking. And it's taking a toll on people. People are committing suicide. In my country, a guy committed suicide when he found out he had COVID. He committed suicide. This is craziness that's happening. And that's why mental health is so important. And I just wanted those people who have problems with mental health, I want to refer you to the American Suicide Prevention the American Suicide Prevention. I forgot what the last name is, but I think it's American something for suicide prevention. You should check that out so you don't go committing suicide or you don't commit violence while you are in your homes and you're not traveling all about all about the place. You notice I'm not coughing that much either. It's because again my body's recouping. By Wednesday I'll be fine. My reflux is getting under control because of my activities and what I'm doing is not causing that anymore. You take the necessary precautions, you take care of yourself, and you'll be fine. Okay? Now, like I said before, in my country, masks are mandated. I get it. It's an extra security, it's an extra precaution. Some of the rules are really dumb. I can't tell you how stupid they are. So I sort of kind of give certain rules a pass and I just do what I need to do to get by. But at the end of the day, Um, I understand why someone who is governing people, but there are different ways to encourage people along the path while all these measures are taking place, and focus particularly on how to boost your immune system by lifestyle change. And I think that's something that I don't see healthcare providers stressing enough and pushing enough. So that's my take on that. This is my last wrap up on elections and talking politics. And I see some of you guys. What I love about you guys is you're not hesitant to talk about politics as well, and that's a very good thing. And you guys must keep on talking about politics. But remember, speak about the politics from the grassroots level up. Speak about what you can do to positively influence people. It's not just about voting. And come out the shadows and start speaking in the light. If you meet me in person, I don't talk that much. I'm a very quiet guy. So, and appearances are deceiving. I look like I'm scrappy online, but I'm actually a very orderly, very proper guy in real life. Um, and I don't talk that much. I talk a lot on social media, and if you get to know me, you'll know I'm a very talkative person. But in real life, if you see me moving around, you would not even know. I'm very quiet. So you're getting live my thoughts as it goes through my head and how I think and reason things out. Um, so my point being, it is important that we as people we support one another, and we can have differences of opinion. We must respect the differences of opinion. Yes, at certain times, some opinions can be very dangerous, especially people want to take action that could hurt themselves or other people. And so we must have an open ear and an open heart to people. I think sometimes we don't listen with our hearts, we listen with our minds. And we hear a key word and we go berserk off of that. And we're not really listening to the person's actual point of what they're raising and what they're saying. And I think it's about time we start listening to each other properly. Listen to what somebody's trying to relay. And it's hard to do sometimes. You just want to interrupt them and say, what the hell are you talking about, man? Blah, blah, blah. No, sometimes we just need to listen with our hearts to hear what people are actually saying, you know. And that doesn't mean they're going to change their opinion on anything. It just means I got you. I got where you're coming from. And it's important to get each other, get where each person's coming from, you know. Because everybody, I'm telling you, man, we're human beings. Everybody wants to be loved, wants their loved ones to be taken care of. And if you see people in a particular environment and particular nature, you will be shocked that these are the same people who do some really crazy ass whack things, you know. Because if I'm telling you, man, even I, given the right situation, I would behave like a wacko. I know it because I've been through it. And similarly for most of you guys, given the right situation that makes you go off your rocker, you can go off your rocker. Okay? All I'm saying is we must be quick to attack people sometimes because they seem to have views that are just so diametrically opposed to us or things that we just can't relate to, we just can't understand. Let's try to connect on the level of what we can relate to and what we can understand because we have a lot more in common as human beings than we have differences. And I think that common ground is important. And we can learn so much from each other because we have different views on things. And that's the beauty of what Congress and the Senate is supposed to be, where there's this connection. And another thing that I really hope senators and congressmen do is show the live relationships they actually have with one another. I saw a beautiful segment on Lindsey Graham speaking on Joe Biden and how much he admires Joe Biden and just that love they have for each other. Okay, I want people to understand this. When you can just be somebody who's a voice for the people you represent, your personal views and how your personal relationships with other senators or other congressmen You should be able to highlight that as well and say that this guy's my friend. Even though I represent different views to him and I come from a different state than him, and these views not necessarily my own views, but they represent where my state comes from, and I must speak and be responsible for the people I represent. I want to just I love this guy. That's the kind of thing we need to know because that love can translate down the line to people on the grassroots level. To let people on the grassroots level know we can differ in opinion, but we can still love each other. And I think that's a key thing that's sort of missing in America now, but it's coming back. You know, yes, Congress and the Senate need to get things done. But one of the things I hope that the congressional and senatorial people will do is relay to the American public that while they may differ in opinions and not every single bill will be passed, and not every single thing, and it'll be pretty strong debates going on that floor, that these people have love for each other. That's very important, that people can appreciate each other and also understand that what's best for their state, they got to represent. And while they may have to, in the interest of other states out there, think of a more holistic way of approaching things so that sometimes they go back to their state and say, well, this is the deal here, and we can get this, but we may have to compromise this. What do you say to that? And their states may give them approval or not. Based on that, when they go to the floor with, regardless of whether they may agree or disagree, they must show that as persons, they have love for each other. And as representative states, as a person that represents the state, they're willing to reach out to other states and reach across the aisle, reach across party lines, reach across independent lines, reach across congressional lines, reach across to ensure that there's still the love there. That's a key point in American politics that is not played up enough. Because I hear when I listen on the Senate floor, I hear people say, my respected colleague, of which I know their integrities, X, Y, and Z. They speak these things, but we don't really get it. We feel they're the boys club and they're chummy. But you guys got to show in the Senate and in the Congress that you guys actually have love for one another. That I wish this would happen in my country as well, because it's so combative. And I know that some of these guys put on a show and then they go and drink with each other together. And I just believe that sometimes it's good, especially people who came up in the same school, the same environment, the same place. You know, I knew of two former prime ministers. They came from the same school, but they always had these heated debates with one another, and they'd be laughing in the background as they just with each other because they're just doing arguments against each other. And I didn't really appreciate it. I didn't appreciate that they had arguments with one another, but I did appreciate that they tried to represent who they were and that representation was the issue and wasn't about them personally. I always feel like people, when you are given a charge or responsibility, it's no longer in your hands what you think about your charge and responsibility, if you get what I'm saying. It's about the responsibility that you have that's put upon you and to do it to the best of your ability. I believe that people should be servants of the people. This is why we never had a monarchy. This is why we didn't have an autocratic rule. It wasn't about the people serving a monarch. It was about the leadership serving the people and the people serving them in return by obeying their laws that they decree. It was supposed to be a a mutual conversation between the people and the people they elected. That's the perfect union. All right, I'm what you need. I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.